Good, good morning, beautiful people. Wow. You know, I shouldn't have just tried to speak after, just having coffee in my throat, but it is what it is. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. And I'm really excited to get into this because I don't know of anywhere else that is doing this kind of a breakdown. So I'm really, really excited to get into this. And something I'm really working on with my morning live shows is trying to make sure that there's an end takeaway message, like a big continuity thing where this thing that I'm covering, it all kind of has like a theme and a message to it. That's something that I'm really working on doing most every single day. I'm really, really excited about today's live show. Please make sure to send some likes and please share it with a friend because this one is definitely one worth sharing. And wow, do we have a lot to talk about. And I'm gonna be honest, for the last few days, I've been very overwhelmed with the crap that has been happening in this country. Sorry, I'm turning on my car so that my phone doesn't overheat. But I've been very, very overwhelmed with the amount of stuff happening in our country. And I think that it's designed to be like that. You know, it's meant to go that way. The second Trump administration, they're trying to do this where they make people feel powerless. They make people feel overwhelmed. And we can't let that happen because there's so much evidence and information that goes against the truth that they're trying to spew, which is completely false. Like all of the stuff that they're trying to brand as truth is their propaganda. And I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to give you the actual information, which seems to be more of which is a very reputable thing to do. But we're going to be talking a lot today about media and trust. And today's live show is going to be really, really good. It's going to be really, really good. So please make sure to send some likes. I'm here just to give you the raw facts and information. I'm not here trying to tell you what to think. I will share my opinion, which you do not have to agree with. You never have to agree with it. Just throwing that all out there. I was doing research for today's live show, and this just dropped. So I'm still a little bit fuzzy about the current lawsuit between Fox News in air quotes, and Smartmatic, which is a voting systems software company. And they've sued Fox for defamation for constantly spewing propaganda, claiming that, casting doubt on the election, all of that. If you remember, Fox and Dominion voting systems actually settled for a $787.5 million settlement for Fox basically dragging Dominion through the mud, trying to drag them for made-up claims about election fraud, everything like that, if you remember. And this just dropped that there is a newly unredacted court filing for Smartmatic. And the reason why this is really notable is because of what was said by people at the at Fox, by people at Fox in the lawsuit. They knew that they were spewing propaganda. They knew that they were lying. They knew that this would increase public distrust in media. But you know what? They didn't care. And it's so evident. And the reason why the title of the live is called, I think it's something like The Pivot That Made Journalism, that changed journalism for the worse, is because there is a huge story. I would love there to be some sort of movie or documentary made about it. Today, the big thing that we're going to talk about is two things. The pivot, the pivot. That's the one biggest thing. But then trust. So make sure to send some likes. Happy birthday, Kate. Love you. Ginger Monster, hello. Akicha, good morning. Okay, so today we're going to talk about two big things, which is the pivot and trust in media. So this just dropped. Fact check this crap. the 5 juiciest Fox News revelations in Smartmatic's newly unredacted court filing. Let's get into it. A slew of private text messages from current and former Fox News hosts were made public on Tuesday night after a judicial hearing officer unredacted parts of a motion filed by Smartmatic. Smartmatic, which provided election technology to Los Angeles County for the 2020 election, is suing Fox News for $2.7 billion for defamation. After the 2020 election, President Donald Trump falsely alleged that the contest had been rigged against him. In the ensuing weeks, Fox News hosts and guests had echoed these claims and singled out Smartmatic and Dominion voting systems for having a role being played in getting Joe Biden elected. Now, if you remember, Fox News and Dominion voting systems actually settled for $787.5 million in a lawsuit. So Fox was like, oh, we can't win this lawsuit because they were in the wrong. They didn't have any merits to stand on. So they're like, here, just shut up. We'll give you a whole bunch of money. Which, for anyone who still watches Fox News, you're literally admitting to watching a network that is deliberately saying that we can't stand upon our claims. We can't put evidence to our claims, so we're just going to pay out a whole bunch of money to make it go away. And you trust that network? It's so crazy for people to think that network has somehow your interests in mind. I'm not telling you what to believe or what to think, but let's put the shoe on the other foot for a second. If this was an outlet like CNN or MSNBC or CBS or ABC, and they settled for a lawsuit to pay a whole bunch of money because they don't feel like they could have won the case on their claims alone, it's interesting because the right would rightfully say, oh, so you don't think that your claims were right? You don't think that your claims are valid? You would rather shell out a whole bunch of money instead of standing upon your claims? They would be right to say that. Now, go back to the actual reality. It's the other way around. But they're like, oh, well, we still trust them. I'm also going to connect later because, there's something... We're talking a lot about Russia. Russia is a lot in the news right now. There is a lot of connections between Russia Today, their media network within their country, and also the media ploys to tie into the far right. For instance, we're going to talk later about Tenet Media. If you know what Tenet Media is, they were a company that basically were funneling and siphoning money. And I'll go show you the lawsuit here in a second. Or not here in a second, here in about 10, 15 minutes. But they were siphoning money, basically paying far right-wing commentators to say and spew Russian propaganda, which you're like, that sounds crazy. Well, I'll show you in a minute. But going back to all of this here, basically, I'm about to share some of the juiciest things that happened in the newly released unredacted lawsuit files of Smartmatic and Fox. And let me drive home that point just a little bit further. If you remember when down here you can see Dominion Voting Systems shelling out $787.5 million, or not Dominion, Fox pushing out that money to settle with Dominion. They can't stand on their claims alone. They don't believe that they can win the case. They didn't believe they could win the case. That's why they said, here, shut up, we'll give you a whole bunch of money. For people who are not lawyers, for people that are not, I don't understand or know about this stuff, basically they're saying, here, to make this go away, how much money is it going to take? How much money is it going to take? Well, here's the thing. Now, Smartmatic has sued Fox for $2.7 billion. Honestly, if you are a news corporation and you are deceptively misleading people for the purpose of driving money towards your network because you've captured a whole bunch of audience members into believing your propaganda, your media license should be revoked. And that's what Fox is deliberately doing. So let me just go ahead and get into it. I'm kind of getting off track here. But, so, it's so funny because part of these 5 juiciest moments will then lead us into talking a little bit more about the lawsuit here. So let's start with number 1. Janine Piro. Yes, you probably know that name. Janine Piro bragged about helping Trump and the Republican Party. This was a part of the lawsuit. It's like Janine Piro, former Fox News host and current U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, bragged about helping Trump and the GOP, which means Republican Party, despite Fox's prohibition on hosts getting involved in politics. It's so funny that Fox News, the Fox Corporation, has a clause saying that they prohibit hosts from getting involved in politics. How many Fox News hosts, people, have been just put into this Trump administration and not faced any sort of repercussions whatsoever? It's so funny. The Fox Corporation's like, there's this rule, and then they don't enforce it whatsoever. You have Pete Hegseth, Janine Piro, Sean Duffy. There's probably others as well, but those are the main 3 big ones. It's and also Janine Piro in these documents, in this lawsuit filing, there's her quote. She's quoted in here saying, "I worked so hard for the party across the country," Piro told then Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ron McDaniel in a text message in September of 2020. At the time, Piro hosted Justice with Judge Janine. "I'm the #1 watched show on all the news cable news weekend, all weekend. I worked so hard for the president." I worked so hard for the president. And it's so funny because this is something that not many people know. And make sure to please send some likes. I love all of you. This is interesting. For those people who do not know, Janine Piro's husband, his name is Albert Piro, back in 2000 was actually indicted and convicted upon, I think it was 67 charges relating to tax evasion and conspiracy. And Donald Trump pardoned him. Just another case of quid pro quo, I'll scratch my back, you scratch yours, blah, blah, blah. Janine Piro, of course, was out there being a huge cheerleader for Trump and huge advocate for Republicans, despite trying to being at Fox, but within journalism, you're supposed to be as non-biased as possible when just reporting factual information. But it's interesting because Albert Piro was indicted in all of that stuff. And so she's like, oh, well, I'm going to cheerlead for Trump so that he can pardon her. And eventually Trump gave him a pardon. And this is not even something that I don't think many people know. Janine Piro's husband was indicted and convicted upon tax felony charges. This was the United States versus Piro. You can see this was in 2000. So this is a while ago. But it isn't talked about. It isn't talked about. But you can see here Albert Piro and Anthony G. Piro. That is her husband's brother. 67, sorry if I said 76. 67 court superseding indictment charges Albert Piro and his brother for tax preparer Anthony Piro for tax-related offenses, signing false tax returns, yada, yada, yada. And of course, you have someone that's a whataboutism. What about Biden pardoning his son Hunter? Yeah, that's not gonna lie, that's a bad look too. What? Did I catch you off guard with my principles? Oh dear. Oh dear. See, it's funny because as Democrats, we're supposed to be better and have morals and principles and stuff. It's when Democrats start acting like Republicans that Republicans criticize them. Even though Republicans have no self-awareness whatsoever, that they are inadvertently criticizing their own actions, but they refuse to have any self-awareness because it's too much for them to process because they face so much cognitive dissonance. So let me just break that all down for you. And while you're swirling in your head because I've just shared something that is so eloquent, I'm going to continue on here. That all being said, but it was a 67 count superseding indictment, and which is just, they convicted him on all, charges and all that stuff. But just throwing that all out there. Now, going back to the 5 juiciest moments that were recently released in this this lawsuit here. It's important to point out, this is where we start to get into the pivot. So before we actually talk about that, texts show Janine Piro called Sean Hannity, an egomaniac. So while I'm researching for this story about how Fox News decided to pivot and start to deceptively spew misinformation for the pursuit of profit so that they didn't lose their audience to a competitor like Newsmax, it was funny because this moment popped out where where Janine Piro was like, yeah, Sean Hannity is such an egomaniac. Girl, that's the pot calling the kettle black. But this is this is what she said. Hannity stormed in like he owns the place, throws his papers on President Trump's desk, this is between 2016 and 2020 at the time, and says, "You don't mind if I use your private bathroom," walks into the bathroom with the Oval and uses it. Looks at me and says, "I gotta go talk to him. It's all about him, period. No one else matters." And she's like, yeah, he's an egomaniac. It's funny because she doesn't realize how much of a confession that is on her as well. Anyway, another part of this lawsuit that is really interesting, and I'm just giving you the highlights before we read some of it. I know I'm a little bit all over the place today, so forgive me if I'm if I'm a little bit jumpy. But another part of this lawsuit was Piro's own producer told her to cool it on election fraud allegations. Her producer was a guy, or was a person, I don't know if it's a guy, Jerry Andrews, who warned Piro, "You should be very careful with this stuff and protect yourself given the ongoing calls for evidence that has not materialized." Later, Piro became incensed when Fox News declined to air, this is funny, declined to air the November 7th episode of her show. This is back during the 2020 election, if you all remember. You had election day, and of course you have election day coverage, and she, I guess, was supposed to have her show on that normal time slot, and so she said earlier that day the election was called for Biden. This is 2020. Several days after the election, she responded by texting Hannity. And this is so funny. This is the person that she also called an egomaniac, but she's of course texting him like a friend, like, "Oh yeah, I never said that about you at all." But it's so funny because she's like, "I'm tired of the censorship and I'm embarrassed by how they called this election." She wrote to her colleague Hannity, responding, trying to placate her, "Fox News promoting you every 5 seconds. It's hilarious." So Sean Hannity is like, cool down, chill out, Janine. They're literally doing so much to promote you all the time. It's not censorship that they happen to not run your show during election news coverage because of something that happens every 4 years. It's just funny that even Sean Hannity is like, you need to chill out. But another thing that's really interesting about this case here that I'm going to be highlighting, Jesse Waters also mentioned that Fox is going all in on fraud claims, that it would be a ratings bonanza. And we'll get to that more as we're looking at this lawsuit and the pivot that changed American media. But this is what Jesse Waters said. "Think about how incredible our ratings would be if Fox went all in on the steal," Jesse Waters texted Greg Gutfeld in December of 2020 as Trump was ramping up his efforts to try and overturn the election. In a text the day after the election, Waters expressed concerns about audience backlash after Fox was the first network to call Arizona for Biden. Quote, "There's an uprising versus Fox like I've never seen," he texted a producer. And then a producer at the network told Waters that you cannot, under any circumstances, cast doubt on the election because the powers that be are not having any of it. And so this is what really gets into the big pivot. If you're like, okay, well, what am I going to take away from this show today? Let me inform you and educate you about the pivot. The pivot. And this is big. This is big. So, you all know how Donald Trump was amplifying claims that the election was stolen. That crap. You're like, oh, I've heard about that 1,000 times over and over and over. What hasn't really been talked about too much with that aspect was Fox initially didn't like the fact that Donald Trump was being a sore loser. They didn't like the fact that he kept saying all these things about, oh, it was stolen from me. They were like, look, you need evidence. We can't just say this kind of stuff. And in this lawsuit with Smartmatic versus Fox, they've laid out the receipts specifically talking about that. And I'm going to go through and read out some of it for you. Y'all, please make sure to send some likes. I work super, super hard. So if you're just tuning in and you're like, okay, well, what is all of this about? Fox News is being sued by Smartmatic voting systems. Smartmatic, they're a voting software company. They have some of the voting machines, whatever. In 2020 when Donald Trump was like, oh, the election was rigged. It was rigged against me. It was rigged against me. I won the election. I won the election. I won it. Everyone loves me. You all remember all of that? Well, he was like, Dominion and Smartmatic, they have something against me. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're anti-Cheeto. Maybe they don't like Cheetos. Maybe they're more of the weird Dorito people. you know what I mean. But Smartmatic is currently suing Fox News for defamation. If you've ever heard like, well, I heard defamation, what does that even mean? It means basically smearing their name through the mud without any evidence. Basically like spewing misinformation. If someone is lying, it's basically like professional lying that harms someone else's reputation. That's what defamation is. So if someone makes up claims about you and there's no evidence to support it and they're just going public with those claims, you can sue them for defamation because there's no evidence for it and they just go ahead and do it, and it hurts your brand. It might tarnish your reputation. It might lead to an erosion of revenue for your business. So defamation is a very serious thing. Think of it as professional lying that harms one's reputation based off of lies, fallacies, and falsehoods. Well, that's what Smartmatic is suing Fox for. Now, Dominion Voting Systems already settled a lawsuit. They settled it for $787.5 million. Well, Smartmatic is, for my knowledge, hasn't settled anything. And so they are still in the pursuit, but they're doing it for $2.7 billion. So let me go ahead and read some of this to you. And this is the redacted Smartmatic's Memorandum of Law. And what's interesting is we're going to go through a little bit of a history here. So in this lawsuit, which is really, really interesting, they actually talked a lot about the pivot. For those people who do not know, Fox used to be very, very wary of spewing the election misinformation in 2020 in the very early days. And so they were saying, yeah, we shouldn't do that. That would be really, really bad for our company. Well, then there was something known as the pivot, where they decided to go all in. And they said, you know what? Fine, we'll go for it. So let me just lay this all out here. Part of this lawsuit, Fox faced an unprecedented backlash after its early call in Arizona. Then Fox decided to pivot to embrace and amplify election fraud to win back its audience and President Donald Trump supporters. Then Fox defendants ran a prolonged campaign about voting fraud and how it somehow was nefarious with voting machines. Then the main message of Fox's campaign was that Smartmatic participated in a criminal conspiracy to rig the 2020 election. The Fox defendants published additional lies about Smartmatic, bolstering their criminal accusations that it rigged the election. And so then, later on, the Fox defendants knew the campaign and widespread voter fraud by machines was implausible and widely debunked. And no one at Fox really believed that it had taken place, but they continued to say it no matter what anyway. So we're going to talk and break down all of this stuff here, which it starts here with the pivot. Please make sure to like the stream. I work super, super hard to share this information with you all. I'm here to make this easier to understand. If you're one of these people that is like, yeah, there's all of this information, I don't know what to believe, I hear you. I see you. Journalism doesn't do a great job at informing and educating people about just raw factual information about what has happened. You don't have to like or agree with my opinions, but let me just share some of the factual information with you. This is the memorandum of judgment. This is what is happening here. So, Fox's decision to then endorse and embrace and amplify baseless election fraud claims became known as the pivot. You can see down here where I underlined in red. Before the pivot, the Murdochs, which if you've heard the name Murdoch, Lachlan and his father Rupert are the ones that own the Fox Corporation. The Fox Corporation owns Fox News. So the Fox Corporation is owned by Lachlan and Rupert Murdoch. Those are the two super powerful people that are high up there. Before the pivot, the Murdochs directed Fox towards a neutral ground regarding the 2020 election, which included allowing the decision desk, which was Fox's decision desk, to be the first to call Arizona for Joe Biden back in 2020. So, just to lay this all out there, if you remember going back to the 2020 election, you had certain swing states up for calling. Like, okay, which way are they going to go? Arizona ends up going for Joe Biden in 2020. Fox reports that happening. That objectively happened. So Fox was like, okay, looks like we have the vote totals now. Arizona is now going towards Biden. And this resulted in an unprecedented backlash against Fox News from President Trump, his supporters, and its previously loyal audience. Facing that backlash, the Murdochs, the owners of Fox News, and Fox News' CEO, Suzanne Scott, decided to, quote, pivot and lean into the election fraud claims they personally believed were baseless. After the pivot, dissenters within Fox, and I'm just gonna quickly turn off live chat. I need y'all to just listen instead of talk. So, and give my moderators also a break here. I love all of you. But facing the backlash, the Murdochs and the Fox News CEO decided to pivot and lean into the election fraud claims they personally believe were baseless. So, as a summary, you had the Fox Corporation actually be the first one. Fox News was the first one to announce back in 2020 that Biden had won the state of Arizona. So Biden wins the state of Arizona. They say, oh, look, the Fox News decision desk says, look, it looks like Biden has won the state of Arizona. Fox's viewers, they're the Trump supporters, the people who view it, which are hugely Republicans, got so angry that Fox reported factual information that this person, that Joe Biden had won the state of Arizona. Now, putting in perspective, Joe Biden did not win the 2020 election by a lot. He didn't. It was actually incredibly close. I know some people think that it was like a huge referendum on Trump. It really, Biden didn't win by much. That's a whole nother thing to talk about. But Fox reports, yeah, it looks like Arizona went to Biden. And apparently Fox News's viewers were so upset. And so they were like, so they were so upset that the Fox executives decided to pivot. They decided to actually say, you know what? Maybe we'll just go back to spewing lies, or maybe we'll go to spewing lies and propaganda even further that are just so wildly out there because we want to win back our audience. So Fox News's pivot was designed to boost ratings, which it did. Good for Fox. It devastated Smartmatic with lies and defamation about how their company was rigging the 2020 election. So it's like journalism, and this is an indictment upon journalism as well. Fox was going the route of saying, okay, it looks like Joe Biden won the state of Arizona. Their viewers got so upset, so angry, so annoyed, so outraged, that they decided, you know what? We're just not going to watch you anymore because we don't like factual reality. We don't like the news. We don't like what has happened. Fox is like, oh God, no, we can't lose these viewers. We can't lose our revenue stream. These people are tuning into what we have to say here. So Fox decides, you know what? Screw public decency. Screw just objective truth. Screw, that is all secondary. Our profit is the motive that drives our investors, our shareholders. It's like truth, journalism, and reputation. Oh, that doesn't matter. It's the profit. It's the money. And so what's interesting is like this pivot also was really was shown because you had a whole bunch of people that were really angry. So Fox faced unprecedented backlash after its early call in Arizona. And up here, seek truth, report it. A fundamental responsibility of news organizations is their commitment to factual reporting. And if you'll remember, on election night, November 3rd of 2020, Fox was the first major news network to call the razor-close race in Arizona for Biden. President Trump's displeasure with the early call, hold on just a second, was immediately made known. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, called Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox Corporation and thereby Fox News, about the terrible call with President Trump shouting in the background. President Trump's senior campaign advisor, Jason Miller, also texted Bill Salmon, the Fox News executive responsible for Decision Desk, saying that it was way too soon to be calling Arizona, and expressed disbelief that the network was so anxious to pull the trigger. Shortly after midnight, Lachlan Murdoch, who is the son of Rupert Murdoch that owns Fox Corporation and also Fox News, and Suzanne Scott, who is actually the CEO of Fox News, we're told that lots of conservative criticism on the Arizona call. The conservative backlash against Fox intensified to unprecedented levels that on November 4th, I don't know how to say that, the CLO of Fox Corporation and Raj Shah, the SVP of brand protection, noticed a sharp spike in conservative criticism. That day, Fox CFO Joseph Dorrego alerted Lachlan and the other Fox Corporation executives to a concerning drop in the company's share price, noting, quote, today's downward pressure is principally being driven by potential election results and our exposure to the news. Let me just pause here for a second. Basically, you had a whole bunch of far right-wing Trumper MAGA people. They were watching Fox and then they reported something factual. They reported something that was factual, that Joe Biden won Arizona. And their share price, the money, their viewership was declining because, oh, well, we don't want to watch this because, oh my God, it's not saying what we want to be true. This is why it's so dangerous for news to be monetized in the way that it is. Their main priority is not trying to inform you about something. Their main priority is retaining their viewers, no matter even if it's lying to them. So it was only a matter of time before someone like Trump comes along, spews a whole bunch of propaganda, gets a whole bunch of people riled up. News organizations are just going to follow their profit model, even if it means that, oh, well, we're just going to have to misinform people because we don't want to lose our audience. Whoa, is Fox going to stand on merit and not propagandize people, not spew misinformation? Corporations are driven by profit. If the profit motive changes in order to maintain the feelings of a cult of MAGA, then they're going to go with it. Screw principles. Screw the idea of actually informing the public and just being objective. Screw that morality. And so this is what has happened. You have this pivot that changed American media for the worse because you had Fox Corporation decide, no, we don't care about what is objective, what is factual, what is anymore. We don't. We're only going to tell our viewers what they want to believe. What they want to believe. So we're just going to run with these unproven allegations of election fraud. Now, put the shit on the other foot. Let's say that this was a liberal network, or let's say that this was a Democratic-leaning network. It would be just as much of a problem. It would. But let's also just acknowledge, coming back to reality here, that it is not a liberal network doing this. It is not a Democratic network doing this. It is a far right-wing company that is literally leading people. So for those people who are like, so as soon as I point out that the far right-wing media does this to such an extent, they're like, oh, well, what about the other side? This is not an argument where both sidesism is in play. This is not. You do not have other media outlets like MSNBC or CNN lying, like spewing literal lies and being sued for those lies. You don't have that. You don't have that. You don't. So like, it's funny. The reason why there's so many people that do this, like, oh, well, it's both sides. That's a knee-jerk reaction in order for you to try and make it oh, well, both sides are to blame, so I can stay on my current side. It's one of those personality-driven things in order to maintain your pre-existing belief because, oh, well, the other side is just as bad. Anyway, but I'm going to have to go here in about 2 minutes, but I want to turn back on chats here. But what's so interesting is this was a huge pivot. Where you had Fox initially was pushing back against, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't actually just spew propaganda, spew these lies. But then they're like, no, well, if we don't change, we're going to lose our viewers. So they were like, our stock price, the company's share price was declining. Today's downward pressure is principally being driven by the potential election results and our exposure to the news. And Jesse Waters, like, there's an uprising versus Fox like I've never seen. I mean, there were a whole bunch of Fox News viewers that were saying Fox News sucks because they decided to literally report the objective fact that Biden won the state of Arizona back in 2020. So this is the same crowd that says, oh, well, you know, facts don't care about your feelings. Yet they're the ones that say a news network sucks by reporting an objective information. Just pause here for a second. Trump won the 2024 election. Just go with me for a second. Trump won the 2024 election. I don't like it, but I'm not going to deny it because that's just factual information. But what's interesting is, put the shoe on the other foot. Let's say this was MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS. Okay? You're not going to have those viewers stop watching those networks. Oh, well, we didn't like that outcome, so we're going to stop watching them. They suck. It's interesting. The only population of people that tend to do that are on the far right, and it's towards Fox News. So it is when Republicans face objective reality going against them that they whine like kids and complain and whimper, and they cannot stand it. So much so that corporation decided, you know what, maybe we'll pivot. Maybe in order to maintain our pre-existing share price, we are going to just decide to lie. Screw morals, screw our duty to journalism, screw the idea of reporting factual information. We're just going to lean into propaganda if it helps us meet our status quo of meeting the profit for our shareholders. That is what this pivot was all about. This was honestly... This was going to happen whether Trump came along or someone like him, because when you have corporations that are steered towards only looking at money, when the thing that motivates money changes, then they're going to go with it. Screw morality, screw principles, screw facts and information. It doesn't matter. And so this pivot, this is honestly one of the biggest things to talk about just in the history of America, in the history of modern America, is this pivot in journalism. So, and I have to go here because actually 3 minutes ago was my herd cut off, but I want to just at least tie it into one other little thing. There's been a lot of talk about Russia, Donald Trump meeting with Vladimir Putin, everything on that front. What's interesting is you literally have lawsuits and connections between the Russian government and the far right wing. Yes, if you all remember back about still less than a year ago, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool were basically exposed working for a Russian influence operation with Russia Today, which is a Russian news outlet, and they were basically paid huge sums, huge contracts in exchange for a fee of $100,000 per video, in exchange for a monthly fee of $400,000 plus a $1,000 signing bonus. These people, all they had to do was spew the Russia's preferred talking points on their platforms. If you want to go and look up the actual lawsuit, it's cited in it's cited here. Hold on just a second. It's cited between the United States District Court, Southern District Court of New York, versus two of these like Russian agents. And oh crap, hold on. Let me find the graphic for it. No. I really encourage that you go and look that up. Go and look it up here, because it's really notable. If you type in Tenet Media, then you'll find it. So, U.S. conservative influencers say that they were victims of a Russian disinformation campaign. And so this was all a part of a group called Tenet Media that was literally funneling money from the Russian government to these far right-wing people to then adopt their preferred set of talking points, and then they would pay them $100,000 per video. I don't even make that in a year. Of course, I don't even make that in a year. But anyway, I have to go. Now is my super, super hard cutoff. So anyway, I love all of you. I appreciate every single one of you, even if you don't like me. I hope that today's live show was illuminating. It's important for us to talk about this pivot. And Fox decided, because their viewers would get so upset by the truth, they decided to literally pivot to misinform their viewers to keep them, so they wouldn't go to a competitor like Newsmax or One America News Network. That's huge. That's huge. I know I was all over the place today with some of that stuff, but the big takeaway point from the live today is that literally Fox News made a pivot. They reported the factual information that Arizona was won in 2020 by the Joe Biden campaign. Their viewers got so mad that they decided to boycott Fox. Fox decides, okay, screw all principles, screw all morality, screw all ideas of journalistic integrity. We're going to lean into these baseless conspiracies and lies about the 2020 election to keep our audience. They are motivated by profit, by greed. They didn't care about the public good of information, of journalism. That is just crazy. It could have happened in many other ways to other groups of people, but the reason why it happened to the far right is because they can't accept information that goes against what they want to be true. This was all going to happen whether Trump came along or not, because it would have been filled by someone else that had Trump tendencies. And so I'm like, you're like, well, where do we go from here? It starts with the education and the acknowledgement of the fact that a lot of people are completely misinformed for other people's profit. And that is so scary to think about. But this will be a moment in history that we look back upon if we survive. And I want you all to have the empowerment to tackle it head on. We can't afford to not tackle it head on. Anyway, shout out to my amazing moderators in here. Lisa, I love you. Kate, again, happy birthday, Kate. Love you. Cantisa, you're awesome. You're awesome. All my moderators do such an amazing job and such an important job. Ellie, love you. Jenny, Akicha, I cannot do any of this without you all. Cherie, I don't know if she was here today, but I love you. Y'all are incredible. So yeah, I appreciate every single one of you. So anyway, just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, You are strong and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. I love all of you so, so much. Bye.